In today's video, I'm going to be continuing my journey through Fable Anniversary. Last time, I had just begun the game. I took control of my hero and vowed to only do good. As a child in Oakvale, I performed good deeds and saved up enough money for my sister's birthday gift. However, bandits attacked the town. It seemed like my whole family was gone. Through the debris and rubble, a stranger saved my life. The man's name was Maze, and he brought me to the Guild of Heroes. Here, I studied and trained to become a hero myself. I worked with the Guildmaster, Whisper, and Maze until finally, I was ready to go off on my own. I carried out various quests like vanquishing a wasp queen and protecting Orchard Farm from raiders. In between my adventures, Maze met with me and delivered some incredible news. My sister, Teresa, had apparently survived the bandit attack. It's good information to know, but at the moment, there's nothing I can quite do about it. Finally, I left off with bringing some traders through Darkwood. We fought through Balverines, bandits, and hobs. Once we made it to the barrow fields, I received word that Maze wanted to see me again. This is where the story continues. Conveniently, Oakvale neighbors the barrow fields. Wandering back into my childhood village was pretty surreal. Everything was just as I remembered it, including the people. As I was strolling over to the tavern, a young lady beckoned me over. At first, I didn't recognize her, and then she began to jog my memory. This was the little girl who misplaced her stuffed bear. She assumed that my whole family died in the bandit raid. Suffice to say, she was pretty surprised to see me. Speaking with her brought back all of these horrible memories. The fire, the screams, the destruction. Memories my character had suppressed, but of course, nothing stays buried forever. Before chatting with Maze, I had a quick look around Oakvale. Surprisingly, everything is the exact same. The builders must have done a near-perfect job. The shops, the homes, the farmland. However, even though the town looks like it used to, it doesn't feel like it used to. Oakvale's charm and safety are long gone. Those died with the bandit raid, along with the people that I loved. Now, it just feels like a replica of the village I once knew. It's not the original, and it's certainly no longer my home.
Ah, there you are. I thought maybe you were getting too famous to be seen round here. I'm afraid I've heard nothing more of your sister, and there's little else I can do. There is hope yet, though. A blind seeress lives among Twinblade's bandit clan. She may be able to tell you about your sister. The seeress stands next to the bandit king himself, and it's no coincidence the bandits have been doing so well lately. Have you heard of Twinblade? He was a hero once. Yes, giant of a man. He had little patience for the guild, though. He left and brought together a dozen bandit factions. I always suspected he was behind the attack on your home. This could be your chance for revenge. The camp can't be far from here. The village is often under attack. I've left a quest card at the guild with the details.
This is a really great opportunity to learn about Teresa's whereabouts. Plus, if Maze is right and Twinblade was the one behind Oakvale's slaughter, I can finally get justice. Teleporting to the guild and taking the quest card, I began my journey through the cliff-top path. It was here that the guildmaster hit me with my bane. My objective was to sneak past some bandit guards. I figured that since sneaking was a mechanic in the game, it would eventually become a necessity. Essentially, for this part, there are 3 guards on the path. I had to sneak past all 3 without alerting any of them to my presence. As far as I could tell, that meant no fighting. If any of them saw me, the gate would lock, I'd have to battle my way through, and then wait for the timer to reset. Then 3 more guards would come strolling out, and the process would repeat. Honestly, it wasn't that difficult of a task. I'm just really bad at sneaking. The first few attempts went pretty poorly. I'd make it past one bandit, they'd start moving, they'd catch up to me, and then sound the alarm. Also, if a bandit so much as gets curious, they'll stroll on over and check every nook and cranny. Finally, I positioned myself in a good spot, let all the bandits roll on through, and then inched my way toward the bandit gate.
Here, you heard what happened to Stern?
No. What did the idiot do this time?
He only lost his bloody cap in a raid. Was a week before he could get back into the camp.
Yeah, you can't get in unless you're in full gear these days.
If you ask me, old Twinblade's getting a bit jumpy. Don't know what's got into him. Hey, who's that?
Going forward, there are two objectives. The first is to blast my way through the horde of bandits. There were probably between 20 to 25 on this small stretch of road. Luckily, everyone was spaced out enough to where there weren't any massive group fights. Plus, if I had good enough aim, I could one-shot some of the ruffians with a well-placed arrow. The other objective was to collect all 5 pieces of bandit gear. The boots, pants, shirt, gloves, and cap. They were placed at different milestones along the path. So really, after all the carnage was over with, was when I was in complete disguise. However, even with the kit fully equipped, the bandit lackeys saw right through me. So I was forced to leave a trail of bodies in my wake.
Hello, mate. Nice bandit gear. This here is Twinblade's camp. Once you're in for good. So, feel free to get changed when you're inside. Another one coming in, Joe. Open the gates.
Twinblade's bandit camp is actually pretty neat. It acts like a small village. While wearing the disguise, all of the bandit residents are relatively friendly. Here, there are swords for hire, merchants, and even a games master. Wandering over to the next gate, the guard bars me from getting through. In order to gain entry to Twinblade Elite's camp, I need to get a hold of a bandit pass. From inside this camp, there are only 2 NPCs who can help me out. The first is the games master. In order to get the pass off of him, I'll need to play his game. The other is a rather shady character. It's a random raider, and for 1,000 gold, he promises to give me a spare pass. Even if I wanted to, I didn't have that much money on me. So it was off for a round of Guess the Edition. The game is fairly basic, but relatively fun. Several figurines are placed in front of the player. The player can take as long as they'd like to memorize said figurines. When ready, they get taken away and then placed back down. The catch is that there's now an additional figurine in front of you, and the goal is to guess which one it is. There are 5 rounds, and with each passing one, more statuettes get added to the equation. There's also a timer, and in order to get the bandit pass, you need to complete the game in less than 35 seconds. If you guess wrong, you lose. The cherry on top is that in order to play, you have to bet gold. The nice part though is that there isn't a minimum buy-in. I probably did the worst thing by throwing in my life savings, but even 1 coin probably would have sufficed. After winning just 1 game, the games master upheld his end of the bargain and handed me the bandit pass. Presenting it to the guard, I now had access to Twinblade Elite's camp. However, even though I was 1 step closer to the Cirrus, I still had a few more hurdles to jump through.
The boss told me to look after this area. He's having a party. And that includes not letting anyone through this door, apart from the hostages providing the entertainment. And that's what I'm gonna do. Got it?
Now, I often see comments that discuss the state of hand-holding in modern video games. Honestly, I have to say that Fable Anniversary offers one of the best combinations of both challenging and coddling. I find that I'm never lost nor unsure what to do, but I'm always thinking and questioning my next move. There are arrows showing you what area to go to, and icons are marked on the minimap. Yet, there's still a great deal of problem solving. To me, it creates the perfect balance and makes for an incredibly fun experience. In one of the Elite's camp's nooks, there was a cage with 2 women inside. These were the hostages the doorman spoke of, and they begged and pleaded with me to let them out. The only thing though is that the patrolling guard had the key. At the moment, I was unsure if an attack on one of them was going to bring on an attack from all of them. So I tried to find some other way in. Similar to the previous area, this puzzle had 2 solutions. One involved spending some hard-earned gold, while the other was free yet somewhat skill-based. Again, 2,000 gold was money that I didn't have at the time, so an all-out brawl was apparently my only way through. Luckily, it never got to that point. I targeted the guard, defeated him in combat, and readied myself for more attackers. They never ended up coming though, and I was free to rescue the 2 hostages.
Oh, help us!
Funnily enough, their grand escape plan was to just book it out of the campsite. From the look of the cutscene, I genuinely don't think they made it very far, but hey, that's my good deed for the day. With the way finally clear, I slipped through the gates and entered Twinblade's tent.
I've been waiting for you.
Stand back, lads! Twinblade wants a word with this little hero!
She said a guild puppet would come, and here you are. My blades have been dying to meet you. They haven't been fed for days. You don't look like much of a meal, though. Draw your blade, guild puppet. Let's see what you're made of.
Surprisingly, I wouldn't consider the Twinblade boss fight that difficult. It certainly had some interesting mechanics though. For the most part, Twinblade could only be hit when his back was turned. He had one move where he'd thrust his blades into the ground. This left him extra vulnerable, and those were the moments that I used to my advantage. His attacks were slow and fairly predictable. However, on the off times when he managed to tag me, my health would drop in chunks. If anything, the most challenging part was staying away from the surrounding bandits. If I rolled away from Twinblade and got too close to his ruffians, they would take a cheap swing at me. In the end though, the fight was over relatively quickly, and it was time to close things out.
Finish it quick then. I'd do the same for you.
There you are. What's wrong? Don't you recognize your own sister?
Her past once again before her, Teresa's memories returned in a blaze of fire. Oakvale was burning. She watched in silence as the bandits tortured her mother, then turned to her with questions of the missing boy. She answered them only with a stare, and so their leader sliced out her eyes. The raiders took the boy's mother and left Teresa alone in the forest. There she crawled for 3 days, blind and desolate, until she was found by bandits, Twinblade and his men. She began a new life of servitude among their clan. But the bandit king sensed her exceptional strength and power of will, and listened as she whispered dark prophetic truths in her sleep. Those who could never accept this small blind girl standing by their master's side did not last long. When they attacked, she killed them without mercy and without emotion. For this was her place in the world now.
I've seen so many things. So much killing. So much dying. I've seen you, little brother, in a ring of sand and blood. An arena full of secrets. And I've seen the choice you'll have to make one day between the darkness and the light.
Teresa!
I'm sorry, Twinblade. Your path is alone now. All our paths are. But before I leave, brother, I have a present for you. For all the birthdays I've missed. A power that runs in our family. He finds you when you're sleeping and when the daylight fades.
What are you waiting for? Finish it, or leave me alone. I'm dead anyway. I'm no one's king anymore.
There's a lot to unpack here. Teresa survived the bandit raid and is now Twinblade Cirrus. It appears though that she just abandoned her post. She ended up gifting me with some strange power, and what's more, Twinblade wasn't the one who orchestrated Oakvale's slaughter. So what does that mean then? Does he truly deserve to die? Is this the justice that I've been looking for? In an act of mercy versus anger, I chose to walk out of the bandit camp and never look back. Well, not before looting the tent, of course. Recalling to the guild, I had a chance to relax, unwind, and upgrade my skills. When ready, I sought out Maze in the guild's southern wing.
So, you really found your sister? I'd never have imagined her living among bandits. You've really come a long way these last few years, haven't you? People are starting to ask when they'll see you in the arena, out in Witchwood. But before you go wandering again, I've left a quest card of my own. A favor, if you will. An old friend of mine has gone missing. Calls himself the archaeologist. He may have stumbled onto something big, perhaps big enough to put his life in danger. There's a rumor that he may be hiding somewhere in Witchwood. That is, if he isn't dead already. You can use a Cullis gate to get there. I only hope it isn't too late.
It seems like, for now, my quest to reunite with my sister and get vengeance for my family has to go on the back burner. Traveling to Witchwood, I began my journey through its dark forests and swampy walkways. Shortly into the trek, my path forward was blocked by a rock troll. Luckily, for my sake, I had this strategy down pat. As it would turn out, I didn't even really need to roll away from its boulders. A well-timed strafe did the trick, and this allowed me to fire off more arrows. Eventually though, curiosity and impatience got the better of me. Getting up in its face, I learned the best way to let off my melee attacks. Interestingly, the rock troll's ground pound move was easier to predict than the earth troll's. So rolling out, running in, swinging my sword around, and repeating the process, the fight was quickly over and done with. The troll ended up dropping some precious gems as its loot, and little did I know, down the line, these would be incredibly valuable. The next area, Witchwood Stones, is where I stumbled across my first demon door.
I only open to those who know my name. If you know it, find and hit the magic stones to spell it out. Only one person knows my name, but I doubt you'll find him, even at the Temple of Avo.
Further down the trail, I ended up in front of those aforementioned stones. Doing some trial runs, there were only 4 letters to work with. They were T-H-I-S, trying a couple of different combinations, including my favorite one,
S-H-I-T.
I ended up having poor luck. There weren't that many combinations to work with, so I was bound to close in on it eventually. However, after surviving a couple of Balverine attacks, I decided to look for the one guy who knew the door's name. Traveling into the next area, I stumbled across the Temple of Avo. Here, I donated a couple of coins to the cause and tried my luck with a legendary sword. According to the locals, this blade belonged to someone named Hugh. Hugh was a powerful knight, and the sword vanquished many foes. With his dying breath, Hugh lodged the weapon into the rocks. Legend has it that only a strong warrior can remove the blade and wield it like Hugh once did. I tried to claim the sword, but it was to no avail. I'll come back for it one day, but for now, I wanted to locate the archaeologist. Eventually, I found the one NPC in all of Albion that somehow knew the demon door's name. After trading away the ruby I had just acquired, he informed me that the door's name was Hits.
H-I-T-S. Hits.
So you worked out my name. Big deal. In you go.
So, you found me. That's just grand. If you can find me, so can they. I should never have started studying the focus sites. But how was I to know Jack was interested in them too? Yes, Jack of Blades. Look, I have no time to explain. You can read my journal if you want. I don't want it anymore. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'll be off. It's not safe for me here anymore, thanks to you.
After spending way too much time in the cave, I slowly learned that the archaeologist doesn't actually have a journal for me to read. I scavenged the place from top to bottom, but really there wasn't much here. The most I learned is that the archaeologist and someone called Jack of Blades are looking for focus sites, whatever those are. In any case, from Witchwood, I recalled back to the guild and looked over some quest cards. The next mission was called White Balverine. Shockingly, the description said that I needed to defend the people of Knothole Glade from, you guessed it, a White Balverine. Luckily, Knothole Glade was just past Witchwood, so traveling there was a breeze. Well, sort of. There were some hiccups in the road. Bandits started roaming the earlier pathways. They really weren't much of a problem, but I did end up getting duped.
Please come and help my wife. She's trapped by a Balverine. Quick! She's just down here. Follow me. They make me do it.
Of course, this led to an all-out brawl with 6 ruffians. Again, nothing too tricky, just very time-consuming. Fortunately, the local guards made their way over to help me out, and together we got rid of the Witchwood rabble. What's more, I ended up coming across the guy who initially duped me. He claims it was blackmail, which it probably was, but he gave me a peace offering to help set aside our differences. From the Temple of Avo, I cut across to Witchwood Lake, and then went over to Knothole Glade. Upon entering the area, I heard this ear-deafening horn and received my quest info. In the distance, I could see the glade's walls. The gates looked shut, and there appeared to be some kind of commotion. As I got closer, I noticed all of the Balverines. I soon learnt that each horn blast meant a new monster had entered the area. Coming to the villagers' aid, I defeated as many Balverines as I could. Soon, the coast seemed clear.
Right, I guess it's safe to let you in now. But hurry up, there could be more of them out there.
Bloody Balverines. In all my years as chief, I've never seen anything like it. We might have had a chance, but these damn things follow a white Balverine. It comes into our village and kills whoever it wants. I can hear something now. It must be attacking the warehouses at the bottom of that hill.
Immediately, I'm thrown into the White Balverine fight. This abomination is bigger, faster, and stronger than its counterparts. For now, my only objective is to hit it 10 times. It's a simple enough task, but I quickly learnt that it'll take much more than that to defeat the beast.
That thing's skin is too tough, even for you. We had a great hunter in Knothole Glade once. He died fighting the last White Balverine. His wife still lives in one of the houses up at the top of the hill. If anyone knows how to hurt that bloody thing, it'll be her.
After a couple more run-ins with the monster, I soon got the information I had been looking for.
The damn thing was just waiting for you. How could it know where we were going?
He was here again, wasn't he? I didn't want to hurt him, but this time, he's gone too far.
What the blazes are you talking about?
The White Balverine. It's my husband. Or it was, once. He was bitten by the Balverine he killed. And slowly, he turned into the creature he hunted for so long. For a while he could control himself. But anything that was left of my husband is dead now.
That's the town horn. It must be attacking again.
My husband used silver weapons to hunt the last White Balverine. Please take this. End his pain.
From here, the Widow gifts me a silver augmentation. A couple of missions ago, the game had given me a crash course on how these things worked. Essentially, augmentations are like enchantments for your gear. They can only be used once, and each gear piece has a set number of slots. For my Obsidian Cleaver, I'm able to throw on both the silver augmentation and a fire-based one I had just picked up. Meeting the White Balverine in combat, I gave it 5 good slashes. This caused it to flee, which was a good sign, and that's when the chief asked me to go after it. After I've taken care of the beast, the town can finally get some rest. Rushing into Witchwood Lake, I spotted the abomination out by the path. Getting in close, it aggroed onto me, and the real fight had begun. A few good licks from my end, and I was already onto a cutscene. The White Balverine, being the alpha of its pack, called for reinforcements. With every chunk of health that this thing lost, it would call on more and more Balverines to join the fight. By the end of it, I was in a 5v1 match. To be honest, I was a little nervous. I was unsure how many health pots I had and didn't want to get overwhelmed. The White Balverine ended up falling quickly, which was nice and all, but now I had to deal with the remaining 4. They tackled, clawed, and bashed my character over and over again. I was tempted to just run back to the glade, but couldn't miss out on all that sweet, sweet XP. Finally, after a great deal of back and forth, I emerged victorious, collected my orbs, and brought some pelt back to the chief.
So, you're back, and in one piece. We heard the howling and feared the worst, but it looks like you triumphed over the beast. A hero of your stature deserves the glory of fighting in the arena. Your nomination should be waiting for you when you return to the guild. Oh, and speaking of the guild, they sent this letter for you from your sister.
Taking a peek at it, Teresa makes mention of sending me a book. Said book talks about the Old Kingdom and a bloodline of heroes. She's convinced that through our mother, we're a part of that powerful bloodline. She also talks about a sword and how we're likely connected to it. I can't help but wonder if it's the sword I just tried to pull out of a stone. The next piece of text that I'm handed is the book in question. Titled The Bloodline, it's somewhat lengthy, but reads, "Though the Old Kingdom vanished centuries ago, pieces of it remain scattered throughout Albion. The guild, in its magnificent glory, ruined architectural corpses, dark and unholy secrets throbbing beneath the earth. But more survives than stone and magic, for there's still among us the living legacy of the kingdom itself. A lineage that is concerned with all that made the kingdom great and somehow ended up destroying it. Whether they are the descendants of Archon himself, or of the makers of the sword, or perhaps of those who managed to extinguish its power, it is not known. Though generations separate them from days of the fall, there walk today survivors of this bloodline, and an ancient power courses through their veins. They may live as heroes, or they may hide among the masses, but their link to the sword wielded by Archon himself, the Sword of Eons, is confirmed in all documents I have unearthed. If I can find the living descendants of this bloodline, I may be able to uncover what happened to the sword, and perhaps the days of the Old Kingdom can be restored. There is one to whom all the signs direct me. Though she lives a quiet life now, she has done much to mark her as the one. And now, the bloodline continues through her children, a son and a daughter, and the power that lives in her will be passed on to them one day. Obviously, the story has been veering in this direction, but it seems as though Teresa and I are more important than we think. We may have an important place in Albion's lore when it comes to resurrecting the Old Kingdom. With my adventure in Knothole Glade wrapped up, I teleported back to the guild hall. Here, I combed through the quest cards and got quite excited. My next story-based quest is the arena. Every arena in every fantasy game works the same way. Battle through waves of enemies, fighting for glory and money. At the moment, I was broke and looking for some action, so it couldn't have come at a better time. This mission took me back to Knothole Glade. From the village, I traversed across the lake, battled a few Balverines, and made way to the arena entrance. This place looked massive and glorious, yet slightly unnerving. I could hear the crowds roaring from the other side, indicating that someone or something was getting slaughtered.
You coming to spectate or participate? Participate, eh? Well, you'll need a nomination from the guild, just like everyone else. You've already got one. My apologies. You can go in any time you like.
Welcome to the Hall of Heroes. If you follow me, I'll take you to the arena preparation area. I tell you, the history of this place is wasted on the public. The arena's first heroes, our land's heritage. But do people care? Nah. People don't want history, they want the heroes of today. Still, I suppose every era needs its own heroes. Quite profound, that. You can quote me if you like.
Welcome to the Witchwood Arena. A couple of basic points first. First of all, I must remind you to keep your aggression for the arena itself. Anyone caught trying to cut up his rivals in here will be in trouble. You have been warned. Secondly, the way out. You can come in after each round, not during a round.
Ralph, it's getting really ugly out there.
Alright, you, Chameleon. You've heard all this before. Go on for the first round and keep the crowd happy.
No problem. This'll be easy.
Okay, when it's your turn, I'll call your name, and you will enter the arena through the door our friend Chameleon just used. Once in the arena, you will battle foes from all over Albion. Every group of creatures you defeat wins you prize money and increases the prize for the next round. The aim is to stay out there as long as you can to earn the big gold. Now, you can come back here anytime you like to buy potions or more equipment. Do this though, and your price for the next round will be 0. And worse, the crowd will think you're a big loser. Real heroes get out there and stay out there. Whether you rest or not, the arena bonus prize, given by Jack of Blades himself, will go to whoever gets through every single round alive. So, get out there, use your skills well, make sure the crowd enjoys it, and if you have to die, do so bravely. The rest of you, wait your turn.
There it is, yet another mention of this Jack of Blades. It seems like he's the one who's overseeing this whole event. Getting a look through the back rooms, there appears to be a small operation. A vendor selling some supplies, a games master, no doubt fleecing Albion's finest, as well as some practice dummies to take a few swings at. After a couple of moments, one of the guards approaches Roth. He informs the coordinator that Chameleon, the man who just stepped into the arena, is already dead. So, that makes it my turn to go out and put on a good show.
Ladies and gentlemen, for your entertainment, I give you Chicken Chaser, famous for such quests as Orchard Farm and defeating ex-hero Twinblade. Like our other brave challengers, this up-and-coming hopeful has an eye on tonight's grand prize, presented by Jack of Blades himself. And we're on to the first round. An old arena favorite. It's the Wasp Horde.
From here, I was in for a very long ride. I guess the old saying rings true. Be careful what you wish for. There were 9 rounds of fights to go through, and each round consisted of multiple matches, sometimes reaching upwards of 4. I'll do my best to sum up each round, sharing the cliff notes on what was easy and what was hard. Round 1 was super simple. I fought through several waves of wasps. After a swing or two with my blade, they were down for the count. It acted as a good warm-up fight and introduced me to the arena's mechanics. My reward for this victory was 100 gold. Round 2 set me up against Hobbs. The nice part is that they don't need very many hits to take down. The bad part is that their classes varied, making for a bit of a royal rumble, so to speak. Warriors, spellcasters, and big, brutish heavy hitters. However, before long, I was rewarded with 500 gold and moved on to round 3. This was when the arena threw me a change-up. It was time for team-based fighting. Lo and behold, wouldn't you believe it, my partner was none other than Whisper. She didn't have much to say to me, but that was alright, there wasn't much time for talking anyways. Round 3 had us facing off against waves of Balverines. Honestly, I don't have much good to say here. The fight was pretty grueling. It started out with regular beasts, which was fine, and then the White Balverines were brought out. At first, it was just one, and it was grouped up with a handful of smaller Balverines. And then, for the final match, 2 white ones were brought out along with the rest of their pack. One gimmick that really helped me get through the arena was all of the traps. In each corner of the pit, there was some sort of mechanical trap that would periodically go off. They consisted of spinning blades, which really helped to corral my opponents, as well as spike pits. The spikes were less frequent. However, when they went off, that was for sure a confirmed kill. The reward for this victory was 1,000 gold, and now it was on to round 4. For this one, Whisper and I faced off against waves of undead, and honestly, I'd put them as easier opponents than the Balverines. They move a lot slower, attack a lot slower, and have way less health. However, as the rounds went on, these bigger, tankier enemies would show up, and they were a little trickier to handle. They blocked well, and when one of their hits landed, my health would come crashing down. The final round had us facing off against all tanks. I haven't touched on it yet, but Whisper makes for a mediocre partner. She's able to distract a couple of the opponents, which goes a long way. She can't die in these matches, so I don't have to worry about her safety. However, she struggles to bring down our foes. In a wave of 7 enemies, I'll have defeated 5, while the most she could take down is 2. Whisper has this weird exploding projectile attack. It works well at controlling a crowd, but it also affects my character. I get sent flying back, and while I can't confirm this, I believe I take a little bit of damage in the process. In any case, once the undead were defeated, I received 2,000 gold as my reward. Round 5 had us taking on members of the Black Hand Gang. They were essentially just glorified bandits. However, that's not meant to discredit their toughness. They did a number on us. The first few waves had us battling against their easier foes, which was fine. It went smoothly and the matches didn't last very long. It was the latter matches though that had me sweating. Ruffians wielding crossbows were flinging bolts across the pits. While they worked on us from afar, the stronger and bolder bandits would rush in and slash away. Soon the assassins started to spawn in and the dynamic changed. Whisper and I would get swarmed. Attempting to attack one side of the group meant that I was exposed and left open to the other. Blocking would temporarily protect me, but I didn't have the time or patience to watch Whisper deal with them. After quite a few health pots and a bunch of spamming, we finally got back into our rhythm. Utilizing the arena's traps, I was able to split up the group, weaken my attackers, and close out the fight. At this point, Whisper and I were on a roll, and we were rewarded with 3,000 gold. Unfortunately for me, the real world was calling and I had to shut down Fable. This meant that my gold multiplier had reset, so instead of making 4,000 gold on our next victory, we were brought back down to a mere 100. What can you do though? Sometimes that's life. While here, I was able to take the time to buy some health pots, so at this point it felt like the path ahead of me was pretty clear. Stepping back into the pit, the next round was quite interesting. It was only one match, and it was against 2 Earth Trolls, Ingrid and Bertha, as the announcer addressed them. Fortunately, I still had Whisper on my side, so honestly, the fight was pretty smooth. Personally, I feel as though it was an easier time than the Bandit and Balverine round. The Trolls spawned in at opposite ends from one another. At first, I couldn't quite figure out how to handle them. Ranged attacks weren't really working, as they staggered their boulder toss moves. So, getting up close and personal with one of them, the other soon latched on to Whisper. It took me a bit to find the rhythm, but as soon as I did, Ingrid, or Bertha, I'm not quite sure which one, was vanquished. Flipping my attention to Whisper's mark, I switched to ranged, letting off a flurry of arrows, until finally, the second troll was down. On comes the 8th round. 2 rock trolls, Stanoth and Groin. I tried to employ the same tactics for this fight, and they ended up working pretty well. It took me even longer to grab the attention of a single troll, and those boulders were even trickier to dodge, but eventually I caught my stride. Their health bars drained slower than the Earth Trolls, and when their melee attacks hit, they hit hard. But soon, Stanoth, or was it Groin, fell, and then the other followed suit. Whisper and I were now on to the final round. All we had to do was defeat some entity called Archaeologist. Unsure what to expect, the round had begun, and I had to look around. Moments passed, and soon, a gigantic, scorpion-like creature spawned in. Archaeologist was a rather interesting match. While fighting up close and personal, I had no clue how to land a hit without getting mauled. Using its body or set of claws, it would easily trade blows with me. However, I quickly learned that ranged attacks were the way to go here. As soon as I created some distance, Archaeologist would begin its own ranged attack. The catch is that it took a while to charge up, and it traveled at an incredibly slow and predictable pace. So, firing off some arrows, I was able to dwindle its health down. Periodically, the scorpion would burrow itself in the ground and leave tiny copies in its wake. However, those fell with a few swings, and it was back to business with the boss. Through much repetition, Whisper and I were able to defeat our last opponent. It was finally all over. The arena had come to an end. Or, so we thought. As I mentioned before, this was round 8, and I went through 9 rounds in total.
We have 2 winners! Incredible! So, what will happen? 2 winners, only 1 prize? Well, as you know, we have a special guest here today. It's the one, the only, the hero of heroes, Jack of Blade!
They have returned. After an eternity away from you all, Jack of Blades is back. This arena is all that is great in Albion, and you all that is radiant. I am honored to stand before you again. And I have a proposal to mark the occasion. One final round. A fight to the death between the two heroes still standing. The winner will receive a special prize. The loser will have the privilege of dying before you.
What do we think they're doing? They can't do this. I'm going to put on a good fight. But I'm not killing you. I can't kill you. We came here to put on a good show. And that's what we're going to do. Let's go.
Surprise, surprise, the final match has me yet again pinned up against Whisper. However, this fight feels different. Before, we were rivals, two kids just trying to prove ourselves. This time though, this Jack of Blades wants us to fight to the death. The winner takes all. The spectators, the atmosphere, the arena itself, it all feels like a setup for one of us to die. For now though, Whisper's right. We should just put on a good show and leave it at that. Her fighting style is pretty much the same as it used to be. She jumps around a lot, thrusts with her staff, and blocks most of my lighter attacks.
We're a winner here tonight, folks! All he has to do is give her one final strike, and the bonus prize is his! But will he do it? Will he kill Whisper? Or will he throw his victory away?
Don't do it, farm boy. We agreed. Just walk out.
I'm not gonna lie, I was tempted. The setting was perfect, and the crowd was roaring in my ear. They wanted it, and I wanted the glory. Although, I couldn't picture the rest of the game without Whisper in it. I knew that killing her would cause waves with Thunder, the guild, and the story itself. Something that steps away from the status quo. But I was very interested in seeing that backlash and feeling their wrath. At the end of the day though, I wanted a good playthrough. So I stayed my blade, strolled out of the arena, and never looked back.
But my dear lady, it was mere luck. He's nothing but a...
Ah, there you are. The hero they're all talking about. I'm impressed. And that doesn't happen often. But I forgot my manners. I am Lady Grey, the Mayor of Bowerstone. I can see you are a man of worth. You should pay me a visit at my Bowerstone North Manor.
My lady, if you would only...
Thunder, I am tired of your protests, tired of your jealousy. The time of your glory is long gone. You should learn to accept that. As I was saying, hero, I do hope you will accept my invitation. We have much to discuss.
This is not over. Your blood spills just like any other, and yours will spill soon.
That was unbelievable. I haven't seen anything like it for a long time. I'll guide you back through the Hall of Heroes. You truly deserve to stand amongst them. I must say, you remind me of someone who fought here many years ago. Memory's not what it used to be, but I think her name was Scarlet Robe. That's right. Ever heard of her? Probably not. It was all before your time. But if you look on your right, you'll see her statue. She was the first female hero to become arena champion.
She was a fine hero, just as soft-hearted as you. But her dedication came with a price. After her final battle, she was never the same. She lives now in complete solitude, crushed by her failure to save her family long ago. And yet here you are. I knew her son would end up here one day. It's in your blood, and in your sister's too. You should bring her to me. I so long to reunite you both with your mother. Just think of the happiness it would bring her.
This was the true face of his mother, Scarlet Robe, Slayer of Balverines. Once one of the fiercest heroes in all of Albion, yet her most splendid battle was also to be her last. Ambushed by a dozen Balverines, Scarlet killed them all, only to fall injured and drained beside their corpses. There she would have died but for Brom, a kind and simple woodsman, who tended her back to health. In time they married and had 2 children, a girl and then a boy. Scarlet's days of death were forever behind her.
Whatever you decide, you've earned the Champion Seal. People everywhere will recognize you as the winner of the arena, and it will grant you access to Bowerston North. Don't lose it. It is rather valuable.
Hey, you. Teresa wants you to meet her at the Grey House.
There's a lot to unpack from those cutscenes. First, I finally met with Jack of Blades. Jack seems like a very powerful person, and yet his morals seem questionable. He ended up giving me some truly stomach-twisting news. My mother is still alive. It seems as though my objective has changed from finding Teresa to locating Scarlet Robe. Teleporting to the Barrow Fields and wandering over to the Grey House, I met up with my sister again.
So, you finally met Jack of Blades. I met him long ago, of course, when he burned down our home and cut out my eyes. But he wasn't lying when he said he knew where Mother was. He's kept her in Bargate Prison ever since the night of the raid. I haven't been able to get inside, but the archaeologist knows of an ancient secret passage. You've met him already, haven't you? Jack's creatures are still after him, just like they're after me. I can't stay here much longer. I've left the details in a quest card at the guild. You have to get Mother out. She's the only one who knows how to reach the sword. You did read the book I sent, didn't you? The sword is everything, and it could turn the world to nothing. Oh, and Mother has a gift for you too. More power than you can imagine.
Well, there you have it. It wasn't Twinblade or some random bandit group that attacked Oakvale. It was Jack of Blades who was behind the town slaughter. The man who killed my father and tortured my mother and sister was right beside me in the arena. Perhaps I could have taken him right then and there. I would have ended the suffering of so many. Or maybe I would have ended up like Brom, and my journey through this world would have been cut short. Everything happens for a reason, and timing is everything. Teleporting back to the guild, I looked through the quest cards. Teresa already told me what my next mission was: rescuing the archaeologist from Bowerstone Prison. Traveling over to the city, I approached the gatekeeper. Because of my victory in the arena, I was allowed passage into Bowerstone North. On the other side, another guardsman gave me the lowdown. It was the same spiel from before, about how I should mind my manners and keep the peace. He also mentioned something about a locked-up lunatic and that Lady Grey wanted to see me. Unless they're part of the main story though, I don't have time for them. Skipping over the city's northern neighborhood and running straight for its jail, I was quickly caught up to speed on the current problem.
There were too many of them. We never stood a chance. They grabbed the archaeologist and took him up the hill there. I don't know what they're planning to do with him, but I bet it ain't gonna be pretty. You've got to rescue him. Quick, there isn't much time.
This quest introduces the player to new enemies called minions. Minions might be some of the toughest regular NPCs yet. They come in 2 different variations: War Dogs and Dreadwings. The War Dogs fight with a dual-bladed sword, while the Dreadwings have staves and cast spells. They're excellent at blocking attacks, have a good bit of health, and can easily bust out some offensive combos. At the time, I didn't know that they had a weakness to fire, so for the duration of this quest, I pretty much just used my sword, which does have a flame augmentation, as well as a few arrows. For the first area, the Bowerstone Jail, I had 2 guards fighting by my side. However, the 2 men died before I can even cross over into the next zone. Windmill Hill had me continuing the fight against Jack's minions. A Dreadwing ended up erecting a barrier, barring me from going forward. So, my task for this section was to reach said enemy and lower the force field. I wouldn't even say that the fighting was all that difficult. If anything, the brawls just lasted a really long time. Minions are very technical fighters. They're good at landing hits, extending combos, and timing blocks. This wouldn't have mattered if it weren't for the last zone's gimmick, but I don't want to get ahead of myself. Eventually, I landed on the problematic Dreadwing, defeated it in combat, and then moved on to Gibbet Woods. The first obstacle I faced was a rock troll. A lengthy matchup, but nothing too concerning. Interestingly though, a Dreadwing was the one who summoned the monster. That left me with some questions on just how powerful these things were. After breaking through the minion forces, I ran into the final area, the prison path. Here, the game gave me a small anxiety attack. Down below, I can see 2 Dreadwings leading the archaeologist to some boat. As the gameplay resumes, I notice a 5-minute timer on the right side of my screen. I take a look at just how far I need to go and realize that I'm in for a world of trouble. The path is narrow and the walkway is long. Even with 2 companions by my side, it took me over a minute and a half just to defeat the first group. Watching the timer go down, I tried to hurry through the last few sections. I was rolling all over the place, jumping back and forth between minions, spamming multi-strike, and popping mana potions. In the end though, it wasn't enough. I was right there, the archaeologist was in sight, but I just couldn't beat his captors in time. From here, I was brought back to the last checkpoint, and my confidence was shattered. I was all alone as my 2 companions were nowhere to be found. Other than picking up the pace in the first fight, I genuinely didn't know how to defeat the minions faster. Again, I wasn't aware that they were vulnerable to fire. However, as a great character once said, it's time to nut up or shut up. Head down, 8 clicks per second, WASD keys in constant motion, spamming multi-strike, and the F keys were in play, I was more focused than ever. As it would turn out, running straight for the dock was a pretty good strategy. This cut down on travel time and bunched all of the enemies together. I went through waves of thinking I was going to make it, and then waves of doubt and defeat. As time pressed on though, and the enemy ranks started thinning, I could see the light at the end of the tunnel. Soon, there were only 2 minions left with 30 seconds on the clock, and then finally, just 1 remained.
You saved me, but then I'd still be safely in my cave if it wasn't for you. Yes, I know the way into Bargate Prison. I know everything, don't I? That's why I'm as good as dead if they find me again. Anyway, there's an ancient route into the prison through the Litchfield graveyard. It hasn't been opened in centuries, but you'll have to figure that one out for yourself. I'm not sticking around here. I still know a few good hiding places.
With that shared bit of knowledge, I'm now 1 step closer to saving my mother, Scarlet Robe, and confronting my father's killer, Jack of Blades.